So a little while ago, somebody came into a stream of mine and they asked me my opinion on fist packs, specifically using lighters. And it was a really, really good question. I just got caught off guard by it, and because of that, I had a hard time answering in a coherent way. I couldn't organize my thoughts. And in addition to that, I didn't actually have a lighter at the time. I was using my earbuds case basically, which, as you can see, doesn't really approximate the size and shape of a lighter very well. I figured I would go ahead and try and organize my thoughts a little bit better here now that I actually have a lighter on me. But with that said, what is power? Because at the end of the day, when people talk about fist packs and other things like that, it's trying to augment the power of somebody's punches. Okay, power is what we perceive as the force of impact between two objects. It is the kinetic energy transfer, or what we can perceive from that kinetic energy transfer of object A flying through the air and hitting object B. Okay, now, how do you calculate force? The formula for calculating force is force equals mass times acceleration. Okay, now what does that mean? You need to take the mass, or basically the weight of the object itself, and multiply it by the speed of which it is going through the air. Okay, and then you will actually be able to get the force of the impact. With that said, there's only two ways to really increase the force of an impact, to increase power, and that is to increase the weight or the mass of the object, or to increase the speed that it is traveling. Okay, and this is why Conor McGregor was yoked, right? Is because he was a knockout artist. He was always trying to hit people and knock them out in one punch, or a couple, but he wasn't really trying to be in it for the long game if he didn't have to be, right? And because of this, it benefited him to be a little bit bigger, because that means his arm, when it goes out, it's going to be more weight that is traveling through the air. And then in addition to that, he's also going to be able to move a little bit more explosively, which means that he's going to accelerate faster, right? This is as opposed to someone like Nick or Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is probably a better example, because he's like the perfect foil for Conor, especially because they fought a couple of times. Nate Diaz is not really known for his power on that level, and you can see the difference in their physiques and stuff like that, right? So why am I saying this? I'm saying this because when it comes down to it, I don't know if a lighter specifically is going to help. A lighter is plastic, a little bit of metal. I think there's some flint in there, and then it's a bunch of gas. It's gas, right? It's basically just another kind of air that's inside of this, right? I actually no, it's not. I don't think it's gas. I think it's a liquid, right? I think it's a liquid. But regardless, this thing, I don't know how much it weighs. It doesn't weigh that much. All right. And if I sit here and I take it and I put it in my fist, it's not really adding to the mass, and it's definitely not adding to the acceleration in a way where it's going to have that much of a difference. Okay. So right away, the idea of a lighter specifically, I'm not the biggest fan of. Now, you might sit there and think, oh, well, what if I use like dimes or pennies or something like that? Yeah, I mean, I guess that would add to the mass a little bit, but I feel like it's probably negligible for a couple of different reasons. For one thing, why are you going to carry around a bunch of coins and stuff like that in a roll? Like, why would you do that, right? That's a little bit weird. It's probably going to be a little bit annoying as well. But then in addition to that, I don't know if it's going to add to the mass in a way that is going to really benefit. If I'm just being honest with you, I don't think it's going to have that much of a benefit, even if it does add to the mass a little bit better than this here lighter, right? Now, the other side of it tends to be that people might think that it's a way to protect your fist or something like that, and that's just not the case. It's just what protection is this going to offer, right? At the end of the day, right, I want to make sure when I'm throwing a punch that I'm going to have a tight fist, a stiff wrist, and I'm not going to disrupt what some people like to call the power line. If you took a marker and you drew a straight line from the knuckle to the elbow, right, you wouldn't want it to be going up and then curve at the wrist and then go there, or go down, curve at the wrist and go there, right? You want to try and line up these knuckles, specifically the front two, with your wrist and with your elbow, right? So that you can throw here and you will be able to hit in a way that's going to be a little bit safer for your hand. Now, does this fit in my hand in a way where I can make a fist with it? Yeah, it does. I can even squeeze it a little bit to kind of give myself a little bit more comfort. But um, I just don't like the idea of punching with this in my hand because it's not going to do that much more damage and there's nothing really that is gained, you know. It doesn't help me to maintain that power line any more than throwing with an empty fist, right? If anything, depending on the size of my fist or the size of the object, right, it might not work. Like I used my case, right, my earbuds case as a stand-in for the lighter, and you see what ended up happening, right? I ended up not really being able to make a tight fist with it, and because of that, the power line as well as just my hand in general was compromised. And if I hit something with it, I probably wouldn't have hit exactly the way I wanted to. I probably would have ended up making a lot of contact with these knuckles down here when I want to try and make sure it's these two knuckles specifically, but you know, these upper knuckles if I had to pick between these and those. When it comes down to it, I personally wouldn't. And I think I ended up mentioning that it's like burnout knowledge, right? Like that guy that you went to high school with him. He might have been like a couple years older than you, right? He's now 21, you're like 16 or 17 years old, and you hang out with him because he gets you a beer or something like that. Or you know, he's that guy who, like, he never grew up, he never got out of high school. He's always sitting around. He's like 21, 22. He's at high school parties, right? That guy hanging outside the convenience store, hanging up at the old post up spots and stuff like that. You wonder why he doesn't have a job, or if he does have a job, why he isn't like building a life, you know? That's like, you hear that kind of thing from that guy, right? He went to a college party once, so you think he's really cool, like that kind of guy. And because of that, they sit there hanging around and they're like, dude, you know what I'd do if I ever got into a fight? Dude, I got this lighter here, dude. Dude, I'd totally. They throw a punch like that. They're like, dude, I would absolutely fuck somebody up, dude. It would tear a dude's face clean off. It'd be hanging off like this, and you'd see the guy's skeleton, dude. It'd be like a cartoon, dude. Like that kind of guy. I think that's kind of like what that is, if I'm being honest with you. I've never seen anybody who knows what they're doing ever emphasize the idea of a fist pack, right? Now, the only situation I could ever see something like that working in, right, is if it's a situation with like a weapon that I can jab or stab with. And even then, I'll be honest with you, I don't exactly love the idea of like, you know, they sell self-defense pens and stuff like that. I mean, I guess that's better than absolutely positively nothing, but it just becomes a game of like, you're gonna rely on this thing to try and like do severe damage to somebody so that they'll stop attacking you. Yeah. That's actually an issue that I had with the Ultimate Self-Defense Challenge. Now that I think of it, before I close this off, there was an event where they had to fend off knife attackers and stuff like that, and they were given self-defense pens that you definitely could tell, allegedly, you could definitely allegedly tell, that were probably given to them specifically because it was a plug, right? They were like, oh, they're sponsoring this video, we're getting money for this, so for this knife challenge, we're going to give you the pens, and then we're going to plug the pens eventually. That ended up happening in the knife fighting, the knife attacker challenge for the Ultimate Self-Defense Challenge 2. And it was just weird because like there were situations where all they had to do was basically just touch the guy with the pen, and they were calling it a knockout. And the guys who were getting stabbed were the winners of the round somehow. I don't know. It's just weird, you know? There's a lot of weird, like, self-defense stuff out there. Some of it is parroted by the self-defense industry, i.e. the, you know, get our pen, and if somebody attacks you, you'll totally be able to beat them up just by doing this with the pen. There's stuff like that, but then there's also, like, wannabe street knowledge type stuff, which I really think that's the type of thing that this comes from, that the whole fist pack with a lighter comes from. So long story short, I don't necessarily believe in it. I personally wouldn't do it myself. There's just really no benefit that I see from it. If it doesn't hurt, it doesn't help. Therefore, there's really no reason to do it, because when it comes to a fight, everything you do should have a rhyme and a reason to it. You shouldn't just do things just because the stakes are so high, especially if it's a street fight or just a general self-defense situation. But with that said, thank you to the person who asked. I forget who it was. It was a little while ago that they asked me. I just wanted to go back and readdress that because, like I said, there was a couple of things wrong when I addressed it. I hope all of you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like and also sub for more. If you have anything to say, leave a comment down below. And I also have a Patreon. It's $5 a month for a bunch of exclusive content as well as early access to videos like this one. Other than that, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, good luck out there.